Good day, everyone. I am Annalyn Ilatadero from BA3, and now we will tackle about sociological perspective. So, sociologists employ three primary perspectives, which is consensus and conflict theory, structural functionalism, and interactionalist theorists. So, the introduction: sociology is the scientific study of human social behavior as the study of humans in their collective aspect. Sociology is concerned with all group activities include economic, social, political, and religious. Sociologists see education as one major institution that constitutes society, while theories guide research and policy formulation in the sociology of education. They also provide logical explanations for why things happen the way they do. These theories help sociologists understand educational system. So it means that the sociological perspective is one that observes society through a lens without personal opinions. It generalizes the causes and actions of individuals into patterns and categories. So, however, it is not only observes that these patterns of society, but also tries to explain such as patterns or behavior. So the first perspective is consensus and conflict theory. So first, we will define first what is consensus and conflict. So consensus is a general or widespread agreement among all members of a particular society, while conflict is a clash between ideas and principles and people. Consensus, shared norms and values, and fundamental to society. Examine value integration in society. And last, absence of conflict is seen as the equilibrium sits on a society based on a general or widespread agreement among all members of a particular society. Conflict is emphasize the dominance of some social groups, say social order as manipulation and control by dominant groups. Social change occurs rapidly and in disorderly fashion as subordinate groups overthrow dominant groups. And last, focus in the heterogeneous nature of society and the differential distribution of political and social power. So, consensus theory is concerned with the maintenance or continuation. So, consensus theory is a sociological perspective or collection of theories in which social order and stability or social regulation form the base of emphasis. It is also the concerned with the maintenance or contribution of social order in society in relation to accepted norms, values, rules, and regulations as widely accepted or collectively by the society or within a particular society itself. Conflict theory emphasizes on social change and redistribution of sources. Mixed conflict theory is more radical. Conflict perspective focuses on negative, conflicted, and ever-changing nature of society. Today, conflict perspective find social conflict between only groups in which the potential for inequality exists in racial, gender, religious, political, economic, and so on. Critics of the conflict perspective point to its overly negative view of society. The theory ultimately attributes humanitarian efforts, democracy, civil rights, and other positive aspects of society, capitalistic designs to control the masses, not to inherent interest in persevering society and social order. So the conflict are interested in how society's institutions, the family, government, religion, education, and the media may help and maintain the privileges of some groups and keep others in subservient position. Consensus theory is sociological perspective or collection of theories in which social order and stability or social regulation form the base of emphasis. So next is conflict model. The conflict model was created to help judges and other professionals to understand why people behave in conflict situations the way they do. It explains the patterns of how and why people behave in conflict situations. Understanding the reason and methods allow us to learn how to respond and communicate or pass more successfully. And next is, it also describes the patterns of how people tend to feel think, and act in the particular situations. More specifically, it describes the self-protective pattern and pattern of information processing people utilize when faced with threat, fear, and danger. Next perspective is structural functionalism. Parsons' structural functionalism has four structural imperatives, also known as AGIL scheme. So when we look at society from the structural functionalism lens, the whole structure of society is interconnected and accountable for maintaining equilibrium and steadiness in society. Any form of rapid situation, deviation, or change may cause disruption in its functioning. Structural functionalism as an explicative theory has been developed and redefined by various scholars. For Durkheim, this perspective is significant for understanding social differentiation, social order, and the social evolution of society. Whereas Parsons' ideas on structure and system are based on the four functional imperatives required in every social setting. Therefore, functionalists see society as being structured like a human body with many interrelated parts that function together to maintain a healthy whole. So as body of human has a heart, lungs, liver, and so on. Society has education, polity, the family, the economy to maintain a healthy whole as well. To sum it up, to understand the education system, we must consider how it functions to contribute to the healthy maintenance of the whole social system. So the four functional imperatives of adaptation, a system must cope with external situational exigencies. It must adapt to its environment and adapt environment to its needs. Second is goal attainment. Goal attainment is a system must define and achieve its primary goals. Third is integration. Integration is a system must regulate the interrelationship of its component parts. It must also manage the relationship among the other three functional imperatives, which is the adaptation, goal attainment, and latency or pattern maintenance. So latency or pattern maintenance, a system must furnish, maintain, and renew both the motivation of individuals and the cultural patterns that create and sustain the motivation. So here is the structure of the General Action System by Richard 2000. So first is cultural system or latency functions, providing actors with the norms and values that motivate them for action. The social system or integration functions, its control the components parts. Third is the action system or adaptation function, adjusting to and transforming to the external world. Last is the personality system or goal attainment, defining system goals and mobilizing resources to attain. So the first thing is property of order and interdependence of parts. Second one is self-maintaining order or equilibrium. Third one may be static or involved. Fourth, nature of one part has an impact on the forms that the order parts can take. 5. Maintain boundaries with their environment. 6. Allocation and integration are two fundamental processes necessary for a given equilibrium. And last, number 7 is self-maintenance, involving the maintenance of relationships of part to whole. So here is the functional requisites of a social system according to Talcott Parsons. The functionalist perspective is primarily concerned with why society assumes a particular form. It assumes that any society takes its particular form because that form works well for the society given its particular situation. Societies exist under a wide range of environmental situations. So next is Key Principles of the Functionalist Theory by Fari 1990. So there are 4. Interdependency, functions of social structure and culture, consensus and cooperation, and equilibrium. So the first one is interdependency. Every part of society is dependent to some extent on the other parts of the society, so that what happens at one place in society has important effects elsewhere. The second one is functions of social structure and culture. Social structure refers to the organization of society, including its institutions, its social positions and distributions of resources. Culture refers to a set of beliefs, language, rules, values, and knowledge held in common by members of a society. Third, consensus and cooperation. Societies have a tendency towards consensus. That is to have certain basic values that nearly everyone in the society agrees upon. Society tends toward consensus to achieve cooperation. The fourth one is equilibrium. It is a characteristic of society when it has achieved the form that is best adapted to its situation. Now, technology, a change in a climate, or contact with outside society are all conditions to which a society might have to adapt. So next is the structural functional model. In the analysis of living organism, the scientist's task is to identify the various parts, structures, and determine how they work or functions. In sociology, sociologist tries to identify the structure of society and how they functions. Hence, the name structural functionalism. Symbolic interactionalism views the self as social constructed in relation to social process and social structures and the product of ongoing negotiations of meanings. Thus, the social self is an active product of human agency rather than a deterministic product of social structure. Symbolic interactionists are not only interested in socialization but also in interaction in general, which is of vital importance in its own right. Interaction is the process in which the ability to think is both developed and expressed. So next is principles of symbolic interactionism. First is human beings are endowed with the capacity of thought. Second, the capacity for thought as shaped by social interaction. Third, in social interaction, people learn the meanings and the symbols that allow them to exercise their distinctively human capacity for thought. Four, meanings and symbols allow people to carry on distinctively human action and interaction. 5. People are able to modify or alter meanings and symbols that they use in actions or interaction on the basis for their interpretation of the situation. 6. People are able to make these modifications and alterations because in part of their ability to interact with themselves, which allows them to examine possible courses of actions, assess their relative advantages and disadvantages, and then choose one. Last one, 7. The intertwined patterns of actions and interaction make up groups and societies. Means differentiation between the basic forms of social interactions or non-symbolic interactionism does not involve thinking. Symbolic interactionism requires mental processes. The importance of thinking to symbolic interactionists is reflected in their views on objects. Blammer differentiates among the types of objects. So objects are seen simply as the things the greatest significance is the way they are defined by actors. Charles Horton Colley developed a concept that has long been used by symbolic interactionists, and it is the looking glass self. It means that we see ourselves as others see us. We come to develop a self-image in the basis of the messages we get from others as we understand them. In overall, school play a significant role in educating the Filipino citizen. It is our duty as future teachers to really inculcate the value of fairness and honesty to our students. We also need to teach them how to learn, so they may be able to adapt in any situations or events that will be presented. The looking glass self simply tells us that we must be cautious in giving remarks to others. Let us all be generous in giving positive comments and lessen the words that will hurt others.